Hi everyone, this is Deborah and today I'm showing you my doily quilt. I've got the scissors out because I can see a few threads I'll need to clip along the way, but I wanted to show you the finished product. Well, it's almost finished, let's say that. I have a couple of ideas and I also have some buttons to sew on, and I had put them aside so carefully that I can't find them at the moment, but I will find them and I will sew them on. So this is what I ended up doing. I didn't have enough of the pink fabric in order to do the complete backing. It's a little bit dull today, but I'm hoping that you're picking this up all right on camera. I've chosen this blue fabric that I had, which is also very, very soft. That's the main part of the quilt back. And then I've edged it where I couldn't. So you can see the top, I had enough fabric top and bottom. It was only on the edges. I needed to add about probably 4 inches. And in doing that, I also used self-binding. Not on this part here. I've had to put another piece of fabric, normal binding on that. But on the edges, I made it big enough so I could self-bind it. And that way I could do it reasonably easily because it's a very heavy quilt. I think I've mentioned that before. I'm not sure yet. I think it's just going to be the spare room bed quilt, should I ever get a spare room bed, which hopefully in my next house I will have such a thing. In fact, an old vintage bed, I think it would look lovely on that because of the quality, the fact that it's made up of lots of old vintagey things, and the style is quite old. In this top left-hand corner, I have that piece of vintage quilt, and I left the binding edge on that as well. And I'm not going to go through every square because I'll be here for a month of Sundays, but I just wanted to show you basically the things that you probably haven't seen yet. So once I put it all together, I didn't like the white fabric that was joining each of the pieces. So I've gone through and I've added different laces on top of that white fabric on the whole quilt. The other thing I did was I added doilies at some of the intersections. Not all the intersections, but some of them. And I haven't given it a really good press yet, so it's been folded up, but it needs a really good press. I'll have to get the actual ironing board out. It's a bit cramped. I do have quite a large ironing pad in my craft room, but it's a little bit cramped for this sort of thing where I want to put it over the whole ironing board and do it. So you can see I use these old, some of these are vintage. I don't know that these ones are vintage, but the yo-yos at the intersections. And that sort of keeps in with where I used them already in the quilt blocks themselves. So you can see there's the house one. Here's some more yo-yos. I've just stitched them on with the machine. I didn't hand stitch them. So I've got this one here, this quilt block with the dresses hanging off the edge, but I think that looks quite cute like that. And then coming up, as I continue to find threads to clip as I go. Now what I'm thinking of doing, and I haven't quite decided yet, but I may well end up going back to do that, is putting a button in the center of these yo-yos that I've stitched on. What do you think of that idea? If I can get some, I've got plenty of buttons, so I just thought it might look cute if I put a button in each of the yo-yos. Not on the ones that are in the quilt blocks like this one or the other ones that are on that house block, not on those, but just on these new ones that I've added in the center, sort of where the intersections happen. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that really. So I'll just pull this up for you so you can see. You can see I've still got a pin in there. I think that was just pinning it while I put the backing on. So I haven't really laid it out and had a really good look at it anywhere. Oh, there's more threads there. There's going to be quite a few threads, I suspect, as I go through. And I guess, what do you think of the lace that I've put in all of these bits here? Do you think that that was a good addition? I do. I'll tell you why, because when I finished putting it together, the white was really, really stark. It really jumped out, and I wanted to push it into the background a bit more. So this was a way of doing that. Plus I had heaps of lace. I figured it was also a way of using a lot of that lace. Here's the Here's the bottom of the quilt. It's been a while since I finished it. It's been a few weeks, but I've been away and busy doing other things, so that's why I haven't sort of gone back and clipped any of these threads off or anything like that. And then we come to the little ladies, which are on the bottom here. I love these. These are one of my favourite bits of the quilt, I think. In fact, I'm not sure I have a favourite. I really love it all. I think it's, it's been really interesting doing it and really fun, and just sort of, using my creativity to make something like this with old things. There's some more of those center yo-yos. I've also tried to put the yo-yos, when I was sort of looking for them, is to sort of get some more of that blue in, because there is blue in parts of the quilt, but not all of the quilt. So I just wanted to kind of get some of those colours going in other areas of the quilt, so it sort of balanced it out a bit. I'm just going to pull it across here so you can see a bit more of it, but it's very big, so it's going to be difficult. Look how that turned out. Isn't that lovely? And this is, I've put 6 yo-yos down here. These were already together, so I haven't even unpicked them. I've just put them on. Some of those vintage yo-yos that I have are really hard to unpick. The stitching is that tiny that it's really difficult to unpick it. You can see here I've only put 5 yo-yos, so I didn't do a balance number. I mean, I did 4 here, but then 5 here. Other places I've done 3, I've done 2. It just depended on what I felt like doing at the time to put them in and what else was around it. So if it had a lot around it, like here I've only put 1, because that's got a fair bit going on around it. Whereas here, where it's a bit plainer, I've done 2 and then 6. And that's okay. Some of these yo-yos are really pretty. I like that one. There is a thread there though that's bothering me. And as you look at it, well, certainly when I'm looking at it, there's all these little surprises that I'd forgotten about. So, like this little button that's there from the edge of the pillow slip, just sort of popping up there like that. I think that that's what I love about it the most, is just the little surprises as I look back over it and see what I did. Now, I have a raw edge there, so I'm going to have to sew that down. I might get that pin again and stick that in there as a reminder that I need to fix that. I knew that would happen just purely because of the size of it, and it's very difficult to kind of handle. I like also how this scallop goes over the edge of the binding. That's the effect that I was looking for when I didn't sew it all down, and I've now sewn that on there so it won't flip back, but I really love that. And then I've put a whole heap of yo-yos, a whole set of those vintage yo-yos there. Do you like how I've put the squares together? I kind of tried to make sure that like the blue stuff wasn't all in one spot. The softer stuff wasn't all in one spot. I tried to mix it up a bit as best that I could at the time so that I didn't, so that it looked a bit more balanced for my eye anyway. Got quite a few threads. Well, that's going to have threads on it. We knew that. Look how that's starting to fray. I actually really like that. Might not appeal to everybody, but it appeals to me. And we're finally coming across to the other side of the quilt. And these are the buttons that I've lost, the little ones that I put away very carefully to sew on there, onto the little front of the dresses. But I will do that. I'll find them eventually and I'll put them on. I'm sure they're not far away. And then we've got our Indian Pacific map and our sheep. Also, I tried to put the farm animals so they're spread around. They're not all in one place. And then we've got this cross stitch. And there's another big bunch of vintage doilies here. And then a whole heap of them down in this corner. I still love the cow. I think she's gorgeous with her surprised looking face. And in this bottom corner, I've just got that white work doily that I had, which I think looks really pretty there. And then the morning tea one, of course, and then there's some more of it in the center panel. I don't know now what I've shown you and what I haven't shown you, but I think you're getting the gist of it. I think you can see that it's actually turned out quite well. Well, I'm happy with how it turned out. I think it's great. It's going to be really interesting to look back at other times and see and go, oh, look, that's what I did there. That's what I did there. With these ones, I did end up putting some buttons in the center, and I quite like the buttons in the center. I'm just not sure yet what I want to do, so I'll have a think about that and may or may not add buttons to the center. Maybe that's a project for the winter, should we ever have any winter, although it has been cold this year in Brisbane. But I could have this on my lap and just hand stitch the buttons on over the top of the yo-yos. So that's it. I hope that was worth waiting for, the kind of final reveal of this massive big quilt that I've done. And thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm sure I have a lot of other ideas because I have a lot of other doilies, and I'm going to have to try and find a use for them. So no doubt you will be seeing more doilies from me in the future. For now, this is Deborah. Thanks for joining me. Cheers.